We're here at the Canadian Biosystems North American Nutrition Summit. Pleased to be talking with Simon Kern with Formafeed, swine business manager, who's one of the featured speakers here today. Simon, really enjoyed your talk. You talked about the expansion of the swine business in the U.S., some of the challenges there, some of the trends, and touched on some of the solutions. So lots of interesting things. I thought maybe I'd just start at the start and ask you a bit about what's happening with the swine business in the U.S. Maybe what are some of the key drivers of that expansion that you're seeing?
So the swine industry in the U.S. has been growing for the last couple of years. We've seen a continued increase in new sow farms being put up, existing ones expanding, largely driven by the profitability and then the demand for pork globally for the most part. The U.S. market hasn't really grown tremendously, but we found ample opportunities to export pork, and that gap is basically being filled by those U.S. producers that are wanting to expand. Certainly going to see some challenges along with that, as far as where we're going to put these facilities, where these pigs that are farrowed and being fed, where they're going to be harvested. Thankfully, many of those things have already kind of been in the works. We have several packing plants that have just been finished in the past 12 months or so, with the ability to add actually some second shifts on those existing plants, and the completion of another plant that should be coming within the next 18 months or so.
Yeah, excellent. Well, very interesting stuff. And like I mentioned to you before we started this discussion here right now, it was interesting to hear how some of the trends in the U.S. and to see some of the parallels happening here in Canada, albeit on a bit of a different timeline. I know a big one here being talked about is the shift in the rules and expectations around antimicrobial use. Maybe if you could just speak a little bit to what's happened recently in the U.S. and how that transition has gone.
Yes, so roughly 16 months ago, we had a big change when it came to the antibiotic regulations in the United States, where most of the antibiotics that would fall into a therapeutic class, where they possibly could be used in human medicine or had analogs as well, would then fall under veterinary oversight. Along with that, producers would have to get what was called a veterinary feed directive to be allowed to feed those meds to their pigs. So we did see a shift in fewer medications being used within feed, some refocusing upon strategies and trying to really target what specific pathogen would be there, why are we using this antibiotic. A lot of good discussions were had between producers, veterinarians, nutritionists as to what really should be done. Many did maybe make some changes as well with their vaccination protocols, or some of their just biosecurity, procedural type things as well to assist that possible reduction in feed meds.
Yeah, excellent. And that's interesting you mentioned that point about having these different key players integrate in terms of helping the producer in the operation with the strategies, with the nutrition and feed people, veterinarians, other aspects on the management side. I guess, is that fair to say that that's maybe a growing trend as well? And I was just wondering for Formafeed as a nutrition solution provider, how that has shifted maybe how you guys approach the business.
Yeah, certainly. I think we see a lot more of that as especially the veterinary clinics become more and more species specific. I think the production consultants, the nutritionists also do become more and more species specific, so we're able to have more of these high level discussions with the producers that we work with. Many of the largest producers out there maybe don't have those. They have their own veterinarian, they have their own nutritionist, so we're not involved with those discussions, but those mid-level producers, it's become, I think, more and more commonplace to have almost a production team trying to source the right information and bring the right information to the table and help come up with some of those solutions and figure out how to apply these things and improve production.
Yeah, no, very interesting. And I guess another thing then, turning more to solutions, obviously some of the evolutions, the changes are having people look at opportunities in a different way, maybe look at a different or broader toolbox. I thought it was interesting you mentioned that term, demystifying the science, when looking at some of these new solutions. If you could just speak a bit to maybe some things that are getting a bit more attention and how to go about finding what is of value.
I know someone had said it to me, walking around World Pork Expo every year, if you took the dollars added up from each individual company there, you'd be able to add hundreds of dollars per pig, and you'd be able to improve performance 5,000%. And we just have to understand that many of these technologies probably have their place. Many of them offer very good incentive when it comes to the economic side, but many of them maybe producers don't understand, or the industry maybe doesn't fully understand how many of them operate and what's maybe the best use for them. Some certainly tend to be more marketing ploys than others, and maybe don't have as much science to back them up, only maybe rely on a couple studies to really push home whatever their idea is. So just trying to make sure that we have that science-based approach when we have this paradigm shift and a shift in what products are used, or what more are probably considered out there.
Yeah, no, excellent. Well, that paradigm shift, that's a good way to kind of sum up the times we're in right now. I guess just as a last question/comment, are you optimistic as we look ahead? Obviously there's different challenges happening, but we have arguably more tools, more science-based knowledge. How do you feel about the future as we look ahead?
Yeah, I think our future is very positive when it comes to the production side of things. I think we have opportunities to improve upon different things that we do, certainly, and I think we have some of the right tools and the right people to do it. My biggest concern really comes down to the health side, and making sure we have our export markets open, so we don't have a foot and mouth disease outbreak or something that would close our export markets, or just making sure that our consumers are educated, and that we don't have them dictating too many things to us that we maybe shouldn't be doing when it comes to, again, some of that mystery when it comes to production practices and things like that. So hopefully we can keep those lines of communication open, so we could bring the best practices from a science-based standpoint, and continue to move production forward and produce a product that consumers are comfortable consuming and they're proud of.
Excellent, good stuff. Well, really appreciate the insight. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Thank you.